I never believed in curses or haunted objects. To me, they were just tales spun to scare children around campfires or fill the pages of ghost storybooks. But that all changed when I embarked on a cruise vacation that would turn into a nightmare I'll never forget. It all started innocently enough. My wife and I were celebrating our anniversary, and we decided to treat ourselves to a luxurious cruise through the Caribbean. The sun was shining, the sea was calm, and everything seemed perfect as we boarded the massive ship. As we explored the ship, soaking in our surroundings, we stumbled upon a quaint little shop nestled in one of the corners of the deck. The shop was filled with all sorts of trinkets and souvenirs, but one item caught my eye, a small, intricately carved wooden figurine. It depicted a grimacing face, twisted in agony, and there was something undeniably captivating about it. I hesitated at first, but the shopkeeper eagerly told us the story behind the figurine. According to legend, it was carved from the wood of a cursed tree by a vengeful witch centuries ago. Anyone who possessed the figurine would be plagued by misfortune until they rid themselves of it. My logical mind scoffed at the idea of curses, but my wife, always one for superstition, urged me to leave it behind. But I couldn't resist. Call it curiosity or foolishness, but I purchased the figurine despite my wife's protests. It seemed harmless enough, just an old wooden carving with a spooky backstory. Little did I know, that decision would unleash a chain of events that would haunt us for the rest of the journey. The first sign that something was amiss came that very night. As we settled into our cabin, I placed the figurine on the bedside table, dismissing the shopkeeper's warnings as mere superstition. But as we drifted off to sleep, strange noises echoed through the room. It started as a faint rustling, like whispers in the darkness, but soon escalated into eerie sounds. I dismissed it as the creaking of the ship or my imagination running wild, but my wife wasn't convinced. She insisted that we get rid of the figurine, but I brushed off her concerns, chalking it up to pre-cruise jitters. The following days passed without incident, or so I thought. But as we ventured further into our voyage, strange occurrences began to pile up. Objects would inexplicably move from one place to another, and a sense of unease settled over the ship like a thick fog. My wife grew increasingly anxious, her once bright eyes now clouded with fear. Then came the nightmares. Vivid, terrifying dreams that left us drenched in sweat and gasping for air. Each night brought new horrors, each more unsettling than the last. It was as if the cursed figurine had unleashed a malevolent force upon us, one that reveled in our suffering. Desperate for answers, I sought out the ship's crew, hoping they could provide some explanation for the madness that had consumed us. But they merely exchanged nervous glances and muttered vague excuses, refusing to acknowledge the sinister presence that lurked aboard. As the days dragged on, tensions reached a boiling point. But amidst the chaos, one thing became clear: we needed to rid ourselves of the cursed figurine before it was too late. With trembling hands, I grabbed the accursed object and made my way to the ship's railing, the weight of our ordeal heavy upon my shoulders. As I stood on the deck, the wind whipping around me, I hesitated for a moment, the figurine clutched tightly in my grasp. But then, with a primal scream of defiance, I hurled it into the churning waters below, watching as it disappeared beneath the waves. A collective sigh seemed to sweep through the ship, as if a great weight had been lifted. The nightmares ceased, the whispers faded, and a sense of peace settled over the once troubled vessel. But the memory of those days still lingers in my mind, a stark reminder of the power of the unknown and the dangers that lurk in the shadows. And though I may never fully understand what we experienced, one thing is certain: I'll never underestimate the power of a cursed object again. The gentle sway of the ship rocked us as we stepped onto the luxurious cruise ship, excitement bubbling in our hearts. My wife, Lisa, and I had been eagerly awaiting this vacation for months, a chance to escape the stresses of everyday life and immerse ourselves in the tranquility of the open sea. As we settled into our cozy cabin, the promise of adventure beckoned from every corner of the ship. But little did we know, our dream getaway would soon morph into a chilling nightmare. Night fell, and the ship plunged into darkness, save for the soft glow of the cabin lights. Lisa and I nestled into bed, the rhythmic hum of the engines lulling us into a peaceful slumber, or so we thought. It started innocently enough. A faint creak here, a soft thud there. I dismissed them as the normal sounds of a ship navigating the waves. But as the hours passed, the noises grew louder, more insistent, like a whispering voice beckoning from the shadows. I awoke to Lisa's frightened gasp, her eyes wide with terror. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I strained my ears, listening intently. That's when I heard it, a series of slow, deliberate footsteps pacing the room, each one echoing ominously in the stillness of the night. My heart pounded in my chest as I fumbled for the light switch, illuminating the cabin in a soft, warm glow. But the footsteps continued, unfazed by the sudden brightness. I leaped out of bed, my pulse racing with adrenaline. "Hello? Is someone there?" I called out, my voice quivering with a mixture of fear and defiance. Silence greeted my words, broken only by the eerie sound of our own breathing. I glanced at Lisa, her face pale in the dim light. "We need to get out of here," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the pounding of my heart. With trembling hands, we hastily dressed, our movements quick and urgent. As we reached for the door, a chill swept through the cabin, sending shivers down our spines. I hesitated, my hand hovering inches from the doorknob. What awaited us on the other side? With a deep breath, I mustered the courage to open the door, steeling myself for whatever horrors lay beyond. But to our relief, the hallway was empty, bathed in the soft glow of the corridor lights. We ventured out cautiously, our senses on high alert for any sign of danger. As we made our way to the ship's reception, we encountered other bleary-eyed passengers, their faces etched with confusion and fear. It seemed we weren't the only ones plagued by the sinister presence lurking in the shadows. We sought help from the ship's staff, desperate for answers to the inexplicable phenomena haunting our cabin. But despite their assurances, the sense of unease lingered, a dark cloud hovering over our once idyllic getaway. Night after night, we endured the torment of footsteps pacing our cabin, the oppressive weight of an unseen presence bearing down on us like a suffocating fog. Sleep became a distant memory as we lay awake, our nerves frayed and our minds consumed by fear. Desperate for rest, we pleaded with the crew to relocate us to a different cabin, far away from the malevolent force that haunted our dreams. And finally, our prayers were answered, as we were ushered into a new cabin free from the specter of our past torment. But the memories of those sleepless nights lingered, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of the deep seas. And as the ship sailed onward, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had escaped something far more sinister than mere imagination, a force beyond comprehension, waiting to claim its next victim. In the end, our cruise proved to be a journey not only of relaxation and adventure, but also a nightmarish voyage we would never forget. And as I gaze out at the endless expanse of the ocean, I can't help but wonder what other horrors lie hidden beneath the waves, waiting to be discovered in the sea of darkness. I never believed in ghosts. To me, they were just stories people told to scare each other around campfires or to sell tickets to haunted houses. But all of that changed during what was supposed to be the vacation of a lifetime, a week-long cruise through the Mediterranean with my husband. The cruise ship was majestic, gleaming under the Mediterranean sun as it sailed through crystal-clear waters. My husband and I were thrilled to be on board, exploring everything the ship had to offer. But our excitement quickly turned to fear on the second night of the voyage. As we settled into our cabin, a chill swept through the air, sending shivers down my spine. I tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to the ship's air conditioning system, but there was something undeniably eerie about the atmosphere. As we drifted off to sleep, I was jolted awake by the sound of knocking at our cabin door. Confused and disoriented, I stumbled to the door, only to find the corridor empty. My husband assured me it was probably just a prank or a mistake, but my intuition told me that something was terribly wrong. Night after night, the disturbances continued. Footsteps echoed through the corridors, accompanied by whispered voices that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. My husband brushed off my concerns, chalking it up to the ship's age and creaky infrastructure, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Then, one night, I awoke to find a figure standing at the foot of our bed, an apparition shrouded in mist, its eyes glowing with otherworldly light. I screamed, waking my husband, but when he turned on the light, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing. Terrified and desperate for answers, we sought out the ship's crew, hoping they could shed some light on the mysterious occurrences that had plagued us since the beginning of our journey. But to our dismay, they merely exchanged nervous glances and muttered vague excuses, refusing to acknowledge the existence of any supernatural entities aboard the ship. As the days passed, the ghostly encounters grew more frequent, each one more terrifying than the last. Shadows lurked in every corner, and strange symbols appeared etched into the walls of our cabin, as if written by an unseen hand. We were trapped in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. In a last-ditch effort to rid ourselves of the malevolent presence that haunted us, we consulted a local psychic who happened to be on board the ship. With trembling hands, she performed a cleansing ritual, banishing the restless spirit back to the realm of the dead. And as the final incantation echoed through the cabin, a sense of peace washed over us, the weight of our ordeal finally lifted from our shoulders. But the memory of those terrifying nights still haunts me to this day, a reminder of the thin veil that separates the living from the dead. And though I may never fully understand what we experienced, one thing is certain, I'll never underestimate the power of a ghostly presence again. The warm Caribbean sun kissed my skin as I stepped aboard the luxurious cruise, excitement bubbling within me. I was 24 years old at the time this happened, and it was my first cruise I have ever been on. This was supposed to be the vacation of a lifetime, a week of indulgence and adventure on the open seas. Little did I know, it would become a journey of mystery and terror that would haunt me forever. As the ship set sail, I marveled at the grandeur of my surroundings. Gleaming white decks stretched out before me, bustling with activity as fellow passengers explored the amenities the ship had to offer. From gourmet restaurants to sparkling pools, every corner seemed to promise something new. But beneath the facade of luxury, there was a hint of unease that I couldn't shake. It started with a whisper, a fleeting sense of something not quite right. At first, I dismissed it as nothing more than jitters, a natural reaction to being out at sea for the first time. Yet, as the days passed, the whispers grew louder, echoing in the back of my mind as a reminder. Then, it happened. A passenger vanished without a trace. It was a stormy night, the sky ablaze with lightning as lots of rain lashed against the ship. I had retired to my cabin, seeking refuge from the tempest outside, when the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing the news that would send shivers down my spine. "A passenger has been reported missing," he said, his voice filled with concern. "We are launching a search and rescue operation, but I urge all passengers to remain in their cabins until further notice." Fear gripped my heart as I huddled in the darkness, the sound of pounding rain and howling winds drowning out the frantic beat of my pulse. What could have happened to the missing passenger? Had they fallen overboard in the storm, or was it something more sinister? Hours passed like an eternity as the ship's crew scoured every inch of the vessel, searching for any sign of the vanished traveler. Yet, despite their best efforts, there was no trace to be found, as if the passenger had simply vanished into thin air. Days turned into weeks, and still, the mystery remained unsolved. Whispers circulated among the passengers, tales of shadowy figures lurking in the corridors and ghostly apparitions haunting the lower decks. Some claimed to have seen the missing passenger wandering the halls at night, their eyes hollow and vacant, as if trapped in a waking nightmare. As the days stretched into months, the memory of the vanished passenger faded into legend, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones among those who dared to speak its name. Yet, for me, the mystery remained unsolved, a lingering question mark that haunted my dreams and followed me long after I disembarked from that cursed ship. To this day, I can't help but wonder what became of the missing passenger. Did they find peace in the depths of the ocean, or did something else happen? One thing is for certain, the sea holds many secrets, and some mysteries are best left unsolved. But the memory of that fateful night will stay with me forever, a reminder that even in the safety of a cruise ship, the unknown and the inexplicable can lurk in the shadows, waiting to be discovered. And sometimes, the most terrifying horrors are the ones that defy explanation. The cruise was meant to be an adventure, a chance to escape the monotony of everyday life and indulge in the beauty of the open sea. My friends and I boarded the ship, eager to embark on a journey that promised endless possibilities. Little did we know, our dream vacation would soon spiral into a nightmare beyond comprehension. The first whispers of trouble reached us on the second day of our voyage. Passengers began murmuring about strange occurrences, a door slamming shut on its own, eerie shadows flickering in the corners of the ship, a chilling sensation of being watched when no one else was around. At first, we brushed off these tales as the exaggerated imaginations of weary travelers, but as the days wore on, the whispers grew louder, and the unease became noticeable. Then came the disappearances. At first, it was just a rumor, a passenger who failed to show up for dinner, a couple who never returned to their cabin after a late-night stroll on the deck. But as the days passed and more passengers vanished without a trace, it became clear that something sinister was at play. The crew conducted thorough searches of the ship, combing every deck and cabin for any sign of the missing passengers, but their efforts yielded nothing. It was as if they had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. Desperate for answers, my friends and I banded together to investigate the disappearances ourselves. We combed through the ship, searching for any clues that might shed light on the mystery that had gripped us all. But the deeper we delved, the more unsettling the truth became. We discovered hidden passageways that snaked through the bowels of the ship, their origins shrouded in darkness and mystery. Strange symbols adorned the walls, their meaning lost to time, and eerie whispers echoed through the empty corridors, sending shivers down our spines. As fear tightened its grip on our hearts, we stumbled upon a room unlike any other, a room filled with ancient artifacts and relics from another era. But the most chilling discovery of all was a journal, its pages filled with the frantic scribblings of a former passenger who claimed to have witnessed unspeakable horrors aboard the ship. Their words sent a chill down my spine as I read of their descent into madness, haunted by visions of an entity that stalked the shadows, consuming the souls of all who dared to cross its path. It seemed impossible, absurd even, but as I looked around at the faces of my friends, I saw the same fear reflected in their eyes. Determined to uncover the truth, we delved deeper into the journal, searching for any clue that might lead us to the source of the darkness that had engulfed the ship. And then, buried among the ramblings of madness, we found it, a cryptic passage that spoke of a hidden chamber deep within the heart of the ship, a chamber that held the key to unlocking the secrets of the curse that plagued us. With fear gnawing at our hearts, we set out to find the chamber, navigating the empty corridors of the ship with a sense of purpose born of desperation. And finally, after what felt like an eternity of searching, we stumbled upon it, a door hidden behind a false wall, its surface etched with ancient symbols that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. With trembling hands, I pushed open the door and stepped into the chamber beyond, my heart pounding in my chest as I gazed upon the horrors that lay within. The walls were lined with rows of glass jars, each one containing a shimmering orb of light that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. And then, as realization dawned upon me, I understood. The orbs were the souls of the missing passengers, trapped within the confines of the cursed ship, their fates bound to the whims of the malevolent entity that lurked within its depths. With a sense of determination, we set about freeing the trapped souls, shattering the jars one by one and releasing the shimmering orbs into the air. And as the last soul was set free, a sense of peace washed over the ship. The darkness that had plagued us all finally banished from our midst. But as we sailed away from that accursed place, I couldn't help but wonder, What other horrors lay hidden beneath the surface of the sea, waiting to be discovered by unsuspecting travelers?